Yes! I love new shocks. Love it. Alright guys, so I wanted to do an unboxing for you. So this is the Fox suspension. This is the Street Performance IFPRs, that's what they're called. So pretty excited about it. I'm going to put these on my 2018 Street Glide and I'm going to test them out, see how they do. Alright, so there's some instructions here. So they have an adjustable preload here, and that's done at the top with a wrench, plastic preload wrench. I'll be pulling that out in a second. And then you've also got a rebound adjustment on here as well. You can adjust the rebound with a little knob, and that's a feature that really separates, you know, the high-end premium shocks with just your average everyday shock. These are the 13-inch shocks. Here's the second one. Got the owner's manual. So the preload has a number graph on the side of the shock that lets you know how much preload you got in here. So I'm expecting they have a weight chart here, and they tell you where to dial it in based on your weight. You've got your rebound knob adjustment. So yeah, pretty excited about these shocks. I'm gonna test them out. Alright guys, so I'm going to do an unboxing on the Revo A shocks here. Let's check it out. The Legend Revo A's. Alright guys. Legend suspension. The preload on these is adjusted just by turning it with your hand, I believe. And you've got a rebound dampening as well right here. Nice. These are the 13-inch, by the way. So you can get both the Legend and the Fox shocks in the 12 or 13-inch length. I would highly recommend the 13. We got both the 13s in both of these shocks. We got the light version. You can see there's a heavy duty version, and if you look at the note there, it says heavy duty applications are recommended for 500-pound rider and passenger total weight. Most people ride solo, and most times, even with the passenger, they're not going to exceed that 500-pound threshold. So I definitely recommend the light ones. Don't go to heavy unless you and your passenger plus all your luggage are going to be 500 pounds or more, because the ride is going to be a little bit harsher with the heavy shock on there. And if you have the proper height, and if you're like 5'10", 5'11", and taller, I would definitely recommend going to the 13-inch shock as well. Some instructions on installation and setting up the proper settings for your weight and everything. So Andrew and I wanted to do a comparison video. So he took the Legend rear shocks and put them on his 2017 Street Glide Special. I took the Fox suspension and put it on my 2018 Street Glide Special. And we both went out at the same time, and then we swapped bikes midway through to really check out and compare this suspension to the stock and to each other as well. All right, so Andrew and I took out our baggers. I got an 18 Street Glide, he's got a 17 Street Glide, so same bike basically. And I've got the Fox suspension. Andrew has the Legend suspension. So we traded bikes halfway through our ride. We took it out the 10 West, which is a really rough freeway. I've ridden the freeway many times, as you guys have seen on my past videos, I'm sure. And yeah, it's really close. One thing's for sure, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, both of these suspensions are far superior to the stock suspension. It would be hard for me to ever ride the stock again, really, at this point. But I personally felt like the Fox was a little bit better on like the real big whoops in the road, but like the small stuff, like the small little bumps and cracks, I felt like the Legend suspension soaked up a little bit better. I can definitely feel that the Legend suspension is more of like a heavy duty, like thicker, more robust coil to it. The Fox is a little bit more of a narrow coil, but yeah, they were both really good. I don't know, what'd you think, Andrew?
I agree with you on most of your points that you made. Coming from my bike, yeah, you're right. Like the smaller, more imperfections in the road, felt like the Legend did handle a little bit better. But as they both sit right now, without changing any of the settings to the suspension, I felt like yours, the Fox, and how your setup is with the seat and everything, felt a little bit more plush than mine. Other than that, yeah, you're right. That yours felt like it handled more of the bigger kind of whoop type bumps a little better, but honestly, yeah, they're far more superior than the stock ones. The stock ones commuting on that same freeway back and forth every day. There are some bumps where my ass would leave the seat. Like it would just jolt me, and I'd get airborne, man, and I'd scream inside my helmet. Coming from the stock, and I've been riding that one for practically the whole life of this bike till maybe a couple weeks ago. Big difference. I would never go back to stock unless you paid me. Yeah, I'd stick with a Legend or anything other than stock.
I think we've determined too that after riding on both bikes, the BMC Corbin seat is a more comfortable seat as well, which was kind of hard to differentiate the suspension from the seat, but I felt like we could both do it pretty well. And Andrew's seat is the CNC, which is a nice seat and everything, but just as far as like shock absorption, it wasn't as good as the BMC. Yeah, it's a low cut. The BMC I feel like it maybe has a little bit more surface area too, and it's got the back that's a little bit higher as well. The other thing I'll say too is, I have these shocks adjusted for my weight, and he has these adjusted for his weight. What do we determine? You're a little bit more than I am, right? I'm like 215.
Yeah, I'm 240.
Okay.
All muscle.
So about 25 pounds more muscle than I have. So yeah, that probably plays a factor as well. But yeah, it still sounded good.
As far as like ground clearance, I got the 13-inch Legend suspension, which is an inch above stock.
Yeah.
12 inches.
Yep.
And as far as that ground clearance, it sits a little higher. It's not a significant difference from stock to where it is now. Speaking about ground clearance wise, I still, I touch down left side, kickstand side quicker than the right side, but yeah, it sits a little higher, and yeah, I mean.
So you have a better lean angle?
Yeah, a little bit better lean angle.
I feel like I did too as well.
But yeah, definitely big difference.
Another thing too is I feel like we're doing both of these shocks, and we purposely both got these shocks. I feel like these shocks hit a price point where you get a good value for your money. These are both around a $800 or $900 price point. Any lower than that, you're really not going to get that much of an improvement in ride quality. But once you start paying more and get a more expensive shock, you're paying for a very incremental performance upgrade. I mean, you can pay $1,500 plus for rear shocks, and I feel like you might only get 20% better, if that. It might even be as low as 10% better ride quality. So I feel like these shocks hit a price point where you're going to get a lot better ride than the stock. These also have the adjustable rebound as well. A less expensive shock than these, you're not going to get the adjustable rebound. So, and that plays a big part as well, as far as how quickly that shock goes back to the neutral position. So yeah, these both are right at that price point where I feel like you're going to get the best bang for your buck. So at this point in the ride, Andrew and I swapped bikes. I rode his Street Glide and he rode mine. That way we were able to put quite a few miles on both of the two different suspension types. And I really liked them both. Obviously we did our research before we got the suspension. They're both really good shocks. And so it wasn't like we were going into this blindly. These are the suspensions that we're both going to run on our bikes. And really I could take either one of them. It's really hard to really make a definitive decision on which one I would prefer.
To ride Matt Laidlaw's bike, dude.
Yeah. To ride Andrew's bike, man.
Hey, don't be afraid to we let it rip, man. Alright. You should probably put it on mine.
Oh, duh.
Yeah. Looks like it needs to be turned in a little bit. Or is it just me?
Dude, I wish I could, but I can't.
Oh, okay.
I looked at it. You can see the shock. It's off to one side, but you can definitely see it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think it'll be alright.
Alright. Let it rip, dude. Take it to red line. Squeeze that stage 4, dude.
As for you, no over 4,000 RPM, okay?
No promises.
The rebound adjustment with the 13-inch shock, that's about as tall as you can go on these bikes. That's really the key. And both of these manufacturers make really good suspensions as well. So yeah, I was really happy with both of them. Like I said, I already mentioned a couple little small differences I felt between the two. And like I said before too, the heavy version of both of these shocks you don't want to get unless you really are going to weigh these bikes down about 500 pounds with you and a passenger and luggage. So if you ride solo a lot, it's almost never a good idea to go for that heavy shock. Another thing I'll mention too is I really feel like The bagger scene is trending more towards performance baggers. I see more and more people doing engine kits, really racing these things out and doing like really nice suspension. I'm seeing more and more of like these inverted front end kits and really high end bagger shocks with the remote reservoirs on them. And so I really think that we're going to start to see this, trending more and more, and these parts being sold more and more, because I just think people want ride quality and they want power now. Whereas if you go back like 10, 15 years, the baggers were all about the big wheels, the big 23, 26 inch wheels and the stretched bags and the big stereos and everything, which is still very hot and popular, but I feel like that's becoming less prevalent, and these performance style baggers are becoming more and more what's hot right now. And if I was in charge of product development at Harley-Davidson Motor Company, which I'm definitely not, I would come out with a model like a Street Glide version. I would eliminate the Street Glide standard altogether and have a Street Glide special or whatever else you wanted to call it, and then I would have a performance Street Glide. And this thought kind of came about as I was talking to a bunch of the guys at the shop one day, and our service manager Keith Hurt, who actually said that the motor company would do well to come out with something like that, and I totally agree with him. So this is really Keith's thought that I totally agree with. But if Harley-Davidson came out with a bike that was a 114 or 117 Milwaukee 8 from the factory that had performance part, like the Screaming Eagle performance parts in it from the factory, like your forged pistons, higher compression, your ported heads with the cam and the tune in it and everything, with real nice shock on it, then I think that would be a model that would do very, very well. I think there's a really high demand in the market for that type of setup right now. Another question that I know people are going to be asking is about the front forks and the front suspension. So neither me nor Andrew changed our front suspension at all. We kept the stock front forks. And the reason being is in 2017, Harley-Davidson really upgraded it to that Showa dual bending valve suspension in the front, and it works really well. The front forks do extremely well for stock suspension. So I'm very happy with it. Are there better suspensions out there? Yeah, absolutely. But the amount of money you'd have to pay for a marginal amount of benefit just isn't there for me. You'd have to spend a lot of money to see a big improvement on the front end. So there's front end kits out there that are inverted that are like $6,000, and I'm just not at a point, and I don't ride my bike in a way in which I can really see that full benefit. I don't think most people can. So just the cost per benefit isn't there for me. In 2014, when I bought my first Street Glide Special, I did upgrade the suspension. I got Harley-Davidson's Premium Ride mono cartridge shock, and that's because when the Rushmore project came out in the 2014 model year, they beefed up the front end. They put a 49mm front fork on there, and they beefed up the steering head bearing and a bunch of other stuff like the fairing changes as well. And there were a lot of really good improvements, and the bike just handled a lot better at high speeds on the freeway, especially when you put it into a turn. But one of the things that was lacking was the rebound on the front end was pretty bad. And so yeah, if you have a 16 or older bike, then upgrading that isn't a bad idea. And you shouldn't have to spend more than about $800-900 before labor to really see a benefit in the front. With the Showa dual bending valve shock, it really takes in the amount of shock and tailors the dampening based on what type of impact your wheels are getting, and it also can really helps with the rebound and controls that front wheel to get back down in contact with the asphalt. And that's something that prior to 2017 wasn't that great. You really felt like a lot of wheel hop in the front end as you were hitting bumps. And so the rebounding and just the controlled dampening on the new front forks that come stock from Harley-Davidson is a lot better now. The other question that I know I'm going to get asked in the comment section, mostly by the Harley haters, is people are going to ask, well, why is it that we have to spend $26,000 on a premium Harley-Davidson bagger and then we have to immediately go out and purchase new shocks for the bike to make it comfortable for $800 or $900. And really the answer to that is Harley-Davidson puts shocks on these bikes that I guess accomplishes the most good as possible. And that is they lower the bike down to get that real custom street bagger look, so it achieves a look and a profile that a lot of people like. And the second thing is the lower the bike is, it opens it up to more potential customers. If the bike is too tall, then a lot of would-be customers aren't going to be able to buy the bike anymore because they don't fit on it and they can't touch the ground. I can't tell you how many people come in, sit on a street glide or a road glide, and the first thing they ask me is can we lower it more? And so there's a lot of people out there that want to ride these bikes that can't touch very well. So by making these bikes higher, you're eliminating a large percentage of the population that can purchase a motorcycle. That and the shock that comes on these bikes is more of what I would classify as a heavy spring shock, and that is for obvious reasons, so that you can put multiple people and a lot of luggage on the bike and it will ride halfway decent. Talking to Andrew actually feels like on the stock suspension it rides better with two people on it, and that's with the preload adjusted mostly out. So yeah, it's a shock that's kind of a universal shock that's set up for multiple things. But if you're a solo rider and you're tall enough to touch the ground on a little bit taller bike, then the stock shock is not ideal at all. So I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what type of suspension is on your motorcycle. If you have aftermarket suspension, especially on baggers, let me know what it is and how you're enjoying it. If you're riding stock suspension, let me know how you like that as well, good or bad. And you don't have to have a bagger either. If you have a Softail or a Dyna or a Sportster or whatever, let me know. But I'm especially curious to hear from the people riding touring chassis Harley-Davidsons. It's funny, we saw a lot of these bikes, and some people will say, yeah, that's the best riding motorcycle I've ever owned, and they absolutely love it. Then other people, especially on the road glides and street glides that have the lowered shocks with the low profile seat, they say that the ride is really, really harsh, and they immediately want to spend money on making it better. So, it's really all about people's, perception as to how the ride is, and probably their age and what their body and their back is doing as well. But let me know how you guys like your suspension and what type of suspension you're running. Also, I wanted to let you guys know too, on the 21st of this month, so August 21st, I will be in San Diego at the 2019 model year annual dealer meeting. I will be live streaming from the announcement meeting. So if you guys are available on Tuesday, August 21st, hit me up on my channel. It's going to be at 8:30 in the morning. There's going to be a general session, and then I'm going to be out on the exhibition floor doing a live stream. So from about 8:30 till about 11 or so, I'm going to be on and off the live stream. So if you guys want to see the new 19 models right when they come out, check out my channel on Tuesday, August 21st, and you'll be seeing the bikes first time with me at the dealer show. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe as well to my channel. That way, if you're subscribed and you hit that bell icon, you'll get notified when I start my live stream. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Take care.